Clerk, time is 7 p.m. I'm going to call this committee of the whole meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the additional items? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Thompson. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No community presentations. 3 delegations. First one, 6.1, Shaheen, Moledina, and Laila, Doran, residents regarding Ramadan and town's special events. Laila, welcome. Just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes.
So I'm Shaheen Moledina of Ridge Road, and this is my daughter, Laila Doran, and she has permission to delegate from me today. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over here. Yes. Did I start? Okay. Honorable Mayor, councillors, and members of the town of Aurora, I appreciate the opportunity to address a matter of great significance to me and Muslims in Aurora, the acknowledgement of Ramadan and Eid within our community. It is essential, as we gather in the town of Aurora, to recognize not yet only the importance of these observations to Muslim residents, but also the substantial contributions of the Muslim community to our diverse Canadian society. Ramadan is a month characterized by fasting, reflection, and spiritual growth, observed by millions of Muslims across the globe. This period is dedicated to fostering self-discipline, compassion, and community spirit. Some interesting facts from Statistics Canada 2021. From 2001 to 2021, the proportion of Muslims in Canadian population more than doubled, rising from 2% to 4.9%. The top country for Muslim births is Canada at 29.5%, followed by Pakistan at 12.7% and Iran at 5.8%. This reality underscores the necessity of embracing and recognizing the Muslim community now more than ever, that the first mosque ever in Aurora just opened. By formally acknowledging Ramadan and the celebration of Eid, we honor the faith and tradition of our Muslim neighbors while also enriching our community with the values these observances represent: generosity, empathy, and unity. During Ramadan, Muslims engage in fasting and prayer, participating in charitable acts and service, which exemplify their commitment to supporting those in need. These principles resonate strongly with the ethos of our town, while community and spirit and mutual respect flourish. Eid, which signifies the culmination of Ramadan, is a joyous occasion that unites families and friends and is a time of gratitude and togetherness, highlighting the significance of family, community, and shared experiences. By celebrating Eid in Aurora, we foster an inclusive environment where everyone can engage in the festivities, gain insight on the importance of this occasion, break down barriers, and strengthen connections within our diverse community. Moreover, let us take a moment to acknowledge the invaluable contributions Muslims have made to Canada. From entrepreneurs and educators to healthcare professionals and community leaders, the Muslim community has enriched our society in many ways. Their dedication and hard work has been pivotal in shaping our nation, and it is crucial that we recognize and appreciate these contributions. As we look ahead, I urge everyone in this community to embrace the spirit of Ramadan and Eid. By doing so, we cultivate an atmosphere of understanding, respect, and inclusivity, qualities vital for a harmonious community. Our strength lies in our diversity, and by celebrating the rich cultural heritage of our Muslim community, we reinforce the commitment to building a unified and compassionate Aurora. In closing, I propose that the town hold a special event dedicated to Ramadan and Eid. By honoring these observations, we not only uplift our Muslim neighbors, but also enrich our community as a whole at fostering a spirit of inclusivity that embodies the best of what Canada represents. I ask you to break fast with me today with a date, a tradition that has been in my family forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Laila. Can I get a motion to receive the delegation? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Kim, any questions for the delegate? Councillor Weiss?
I want to thank you for coming forward, Laila. I'm very impressed with your presence and confidence here and the topic. So I want to thank you for being here. Also, thanks for the graphic that you had. You have this for across Canada. Do you have some statistics or understanding of the numbers of Muslims that are within the town of Aurora? Do you know those statistics? Do we have that anywhere through
Laila?
you to the delegate?
Laila?
3 to 1.
Pardon me, sorry.
3 to 1. It's
Three-
a ratio.
Okay, very
Mhm.
good. Thank you. No more.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
I simply just wanted to say great job and thank you for being here this evening.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Laila, thank you very much for coming this evening. As was mentioned, great job. And you kept it under 5 minutes, which some people just can't do, but you did it. So thank you. I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you very much. So next we have 6.2. Oh, sure. Thank you. So we will move to 6.2. Nick Pileggi, regarding item 14.3. Nick?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a brief presentation.
Yeah, Nick, did you bring treats? I mean. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Nick Pileggi, and I'm a principal with Macaulay, Shiomi, Howson, land use planning firm that's here in Aurora. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church on behalf for a property at 7 Lacey Court. So the property is located on the north side of Wellington. It is between Bathurst Street, which is west to the left on your screen, and Yonge Street, which is to the right on your screen. It's just east of McLeod Drive, which is the road just west of the property there. There's an existing place of worship, the Christ Evangelical Lutheran Church, which is accessed from Lacey Court, which is to the north. It's also adjacent to the 200 Wellington property, which was approved in principle by the Ontario Land Tribunal on settlement for 27 townhouses. It also is in proximity to high school and elementary school and commercial uses. So the site plan that's before you in the staff report later on this evening is the one on the left side of the screen, just south of the church. But we provided the other site plan to the east as well for context. The proposal is for 29 townhouses in 6 blocks. There's 2 parking spaces per unit that are provided and 7 visitor parking spots. And a full moves access is provided through the 200 Wellington property to Wellington Street. There's emergency access that's provided at the southwest corner of the site where you can see the turnaround there. So in the previous iteration of the plan that was before council at the public meeting, there was a write-in, sort of a sweeping write-in access in that area, but through discussions with staff in York Region, that was removed. The only other relatively minor revision that was made to the site is that the blocks that are along the east-west road, that east-west road was shifted a little bit further to the north. And that served a twofold purpose of not only reducing that little jog in the road between the 2 properties, but also increasing the amount of land that's in the open space environmental block along Wellington Street. So council will see that before you tonight, along with the zoning bylaw amendment to permit the townhouses and the development standards, is an OP amendment. And I know that council sometimes has concerns with official plan amendments. In this case, I just wanted to be clear. The reason there's an official plan amendment before you is because the lands are designated institutional and permit the church. But these lands are now surplus to the church operation, which is going to remain on the site at the north end of the site in the same configuration that it is right now. So we're redesignating that to stable neighborhoods, and we need no revisions to the stable neighborhood designation in order to permit the townhouses that are here. So it's consistent with the stable neighborhoods designation. So in closing, the lands are along a major street that does have transit. It has a local corridor designation in the official plan. And as I just mentioned, it's consistent with the stable neighborhoods designation. The surrounding context does include institutional uses like a high school and an elementary school. There's parks, commercial, obviously the place of worship on the site. And there's even office and commercial uses within walking distance. The extension of the plan itself is an extension of the site plan to the east on 200 Wellington, which creates a more comprehensive plan. And obviously we're using the access point and reducing accesses to Wellington Street. The proposed townhouse development is consistent with the current and emerging context of the area. And I'm here tonight to ask council to accept the staff recommendation to approve the development and pass the zoning bylaw and official plan amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, a motion to receive and refer to 14.3. Mr. Thompson, Councillor Kim, questions for the delegate? Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to the delegate. I just want to confirm, because I know we've looked at this before, public planning and so forth, and I just want to have a confirmation that there will be no access to Kenley or Lacey Court from this project.
Mr. Mayor, that's correct. There's going to be a fence between the 2 points. So that was something both for the site plan and for the church was important to them that the parking for the church, for example, not be utilized by the residential uses. So yes, no connection.
Councillor.
Perfect. Thank you. And then just finally, because I did notice in the report, I was just trying to find it, but I did read somewhere in there about the trees that were backing on to some of the homes there that you were retaining, but there was a couple there that you weren't. There was a few homes there that were in question about wanting to ensure that some of the original trees were there. Is that part of some of the inventory that you are keeping through Mr. Mayor?
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we're still working with staff on the site plan. There are some trees along the western edge that we are looking to retain as many as possible. It's not going to be possible to retain all of them with some of the grading work that needs to be done, but we are certainly, it's not only a benefit to the existing neighbors, obviously to keep it for buffer purposes, but obviously if we can have some treed areas as well, it's a benefit for us as well. So we are looking to retain as many as we can in that area.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks. I appreciate that you guys are making that effort to retain as much as you can on that westernly side. Thank you.
Any other questions for the delegate? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next, 6.3, we have David Hurd, resident, regarding item 14.1. Mr. Hurd, welcome. Just get you to state your name and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. David Hurd, Aurora resident, lifetime, family roots all the way back to 1802 in Aurora. I wrote some notes here. I'm just going to use them sort of to keep me in direct. I'm going to speak from the heart. First off, I want to thank town staff, Mr. Ramuno, Adam Robb, the Michelle from the Aurora Museum and Archives, Michelle Johnson and her team, and everyone involved in the dedication to the Happy Woodland Pet Cemetery. As you know, I've been a longtime advocate on this property in believing that this pet cemetery could be a major tourist attraction. And I think the evidence is mounting through people who want to enjoy it and see it. I spoke to several people this week in regards to the report from the Heritage Committee and getting their input in regards to discussions about some stones that may have negative messaging on them. And yes, the stones from history. But however, what I decided to do was, be inclusive and reach out to members of the public who would be most affected, or residents beyond business people, families, and those people who would most be affected by seeing the stones with a negative messaging, or the names chiseled on them. Some of the comments, I'll tell you, were nothing positive can come from those stones to remain. That was one comment. I wouldn't want any of my friends or family to be hurt seeing it. It would hurt. Another family, an interracial couple that I got to talk to that I've known for a while. If it occurred today, it would be documented, complaint filed, and removed. So I know there's other people I spoke to that they wanted history preserved. They referenced, one said, well, statues are being taken down for stuff, so that's not okay, or parks or community spaces being renamed, or one referenced offensiveness in a book in the library. And I said, well, to me, there's a difference. Those monuments, etc., do not have the stories front and center. The book is not front and center. You have to go to the library, or you go online and you read it. If you go to see those statues, the story isn't front and center. You go research it. This is a stones that's front and center. And people are telling me that they would be hurt by it. I don't think that's the inclusive message that Aurora has been sending to its citizens and beyond. What I would like to suggest, I've thought this through, and this is not just me. This is from talking to a lot of people and getting input, a lot of people. What I'd like to see, and there's agreement, is the offensive wording dealt with by, let's just say my belief is that it should be replaced in some way. The stone's not taken away. But if I had my choice, I'd replace the offensive word with words from a Mason doing it that said inclusivity and choice, right on the offensive stone. And with a QR code and with signage that says, we chose to replace this with a positive message to change a negative, we believe, that may be conceived as negative by some people. If you choose to view, to see the history, I don't know what the wording would be. I'm sure great staff would figure it out, but it would be their choice to view that. That's just my take. I don't, as I said, I'm very passionate about this. I've always believed that this site could have massive potential, and I know it will be. And I think the only other thing I'll add, I don't think provincial delegate or designation is strong enough, knowing being on the Heritage Committee and the battles we had with new challenges with, dealing with heritage. I really do believe, and I'd like to hear from staff, where we are at with the proposal I had back in, I think, 2014, for it to move towards a National Historic Site. The reason being is there's a lot of funding at national level for tourism. And as I said, I want this site. I would love to see this site move to the next level, and all the help you can give it, support what the museum and their staff have asked for. I would love to see it be an inclusive site. Thank you.
Thank you. A motion to receive and refer. Councillor Gallo, Councillor Gillen. Any questions for the delegate? Councillor Weiss.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you coming here and all the work you've done on the pet cemetery. You're an expert in that area. And I'm glad you chose this topic simply because I had it listed as something I thought we should speak about when it comes forward a little bit later on. The sensitivity around language and the sensitization of artifacts is something that's been in the news and I think in the literature. And I'm glad to see we've got Michelle here to be able to speak to that. So I want to thank you for coming here today and pointing this out and with your suggestions as well, because I think they're apropos. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, sir, thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Advisory committee meeting minutes. Anyone want any of those items pulled? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to be received for information. Councillor Weiss. Councillor Ken, thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should pull the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes and refer it to this item as well. This did come through the Heritage Advisory Committee.
I don't usually do that, Councillor. I mean, we can reference the meeting minutes. We wouldn't attach them to the thing. I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll speak to them. Thank you.
Okay. Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Nothing on the consent agenda or any items anybody wants pulled. Councillor Thompson.
Point one.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
15-1.
Thank you. 15-1. Any others? Councillor Weiss.
14-1. I don't know if it was done before. The 11-2.
Thank you. There's no others. Can I get a motion to Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'll just pull all the motions. Thank you.
You have something to speak to every single one of them? You have something to speak to all of them?
Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, well, if you don't, then there's no reason to pull them, Councillor.
Well, then I'll make sure I have something to say.
Okay. I'll make sure I make note of that. Okay, start 11.1. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this. Would you like to move it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead. Seconder. Ms. Thompson. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you for the public's information, for the press information. This is something that we do every year to be transparent. For example, we have one of the charts is remuneration. The other charts say how much we spend. And I would just like to say to the public, we are completely transparent by putting this on the agenda. My experience is not many people see it or look at it, but perhaps what I'm saying might prompt people to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? See none. Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 11.2. Councillor Weiss, you pulled this. Did you want to move it? Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gilland. Go ahead, Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. I appreciate the report. And my only real question about it had to do with the not just the deficit management, but to ask the finance department if we do have an existing summary of the changes in the reserves that we have based upon 2024. I haven't seen the report. I looked for it, and I wonder if it's buried in there somewhere amongst other reports. But if not, is there a possibility to be able to get a report that identifies what the status of our existing reserves are that can come back to council through you to probably Jason?
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have an updated reserve balance that we post on the website semi-annually, but we could certainly do a more detailed report to identify the change in reserve from 20. You're looking for the change from 23 to 24, kind of thing.
Councillor?
Yes, that would be fine. I wouldn't mind if it went back further than that, just to see how our reserves have been managed over the last little while, but I just couldn't find it anywhere. So if you're looking at 23, 24, that would be fantastic to start, and I appreciate it.
Mr. Gardner, yep.
Certainly we can go back farther too. So we'll bring a report back to council with a few years back to give you an idea of how the reserves have changed over the last 3 or 4 years.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gardner, could we go even further back? Could we go like from 2006 on?
Absolutely.
I would love to see that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Councillor Thompson?
Just for the public's knowledge, it's always been posted on our website. It's under the budget section where it says reserve funds, and there's always been a schedule, and it's been broken down, and it's a comment or a question that's been asked many times in the past, but it's always been part of the process and publicly available for all.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? We'll vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 13.1. Councillor Thompson, you pulled this. Did you want to move it? Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
2 questions. I guess the first one really with respect to water loss, which is driving a little bit of the conversation here and why we're looking to increase the fees. But I really appreciate the fact that it does acknowledge within the report some of the initiatives we've undertaken over the last number of years. We've kind of minimized that water loss. But what I would like to see even go further is to get a sense of from a percentage base where we're at currently, because it's not necessarily something we've talked about in the past. I know if I go far enough back, we used to peg water loss at around 10%, but how much of a difference are these initiatives that we've undertaken over the last little while move the needle when it comes to trying to identify what that percentage is for water loss? I guess through you this is Steenkamp.
Ms. Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly it is below 10% currently. I'm not certain of the exact factor, but I can get that for council.
Great. And then the second, the driver for increasing the fees was certainly that the acknowledgement that the costs that we've charged up to date, we're not covering the true cost of the water. So we've decided that we've picked this amount. Are we confident that this covers the cost to the best of our knowledge?
Steenkamp?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly you'll see in the chart that is broken down with the proposed fees. There's different categories for condominium developments and commercial. Those ones are actually going to be metered. When it comes to developments that are freehold, so freestanding homes, townhomes, it's not feasible for us to put them on a meter system just because of the complications in development and how developers develop sites and the multiple builders that could be on site. So with those developments, those will be on a flat rate fee per unit. And while we can't cover the exact amount of water, exact amount of water loss for those, it'll be more in line to what we feel we're losing currently. So we won't be subsidizing it as much as we currently are in those freehold. It'll bring us up to a number that we feel is going to cover some of our infrastructure and asset repair and keep us on line to have our water system healthy and for the future for residents.
Councillor.
Thank you. And I recognize that in that situation, without metering it, it cannot be exact, but I just wanted to know that, we're making our best guesstimate with regards to cost recovery and that we feel that this is adequate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 14.1, Councillor Reese, you pulled this. Did you want to move it? Okay, seconder. Councillor Gillan, go ahead, Councillor Reese.
Yes, my only question was a follow-up that we heard from the delegate, and I just wanted to find out a little bit about what are the best practices regarding, because I read the report, I was at the HAC when it went through, but this whole notion of sensitizing the language that is there. On one side, there are people who believe that the history should reflect the history and things shouldn't be changed artifactually. But I recognize what the resident said as well, and I appreciate what he said. But I wonder, and there's some discussion in the report as well as the meeting. So if I could ask where the best practices fit now with respect to offensive or quasi-offensive language and the adjustment of artifacts to see whether that's a best practice that is now being used across the board for us, or are we doing something somewhat different through you probably to Ms. McDougall or maybe one of the experts in the crowd?
Ms. McDougall, did you want Michelle to come down? It's up to you.
Yes, if I could have Michelle, but I will just, if you don't mind, just to be clear that section of the permit request is going to be coming back with more information and more research.
Okay.
Certainly Michelle today can provide some context of the preliminary assessment of how to handle it, but we still as staff have more work to be done to bring back another subsequent report on that
Thank you.
topic.
Welcome.
Hi there, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Weiss. There is, in terms of best practice, there are precedents being set. There are some case examples that we found globally regarding this specific word in use in cemetery sites, some historic cemetery sites. 2 of those examples involve animals and 1 involves humans. In all 3 examples, that word was removed from the site. Some examples, the stones were replaced with another replica that didn't contain that language. And in another example, the stone was removed, stored, and nothing was replaced. So we're looking for other examples and other precedents that have been set. And those are the ones we have found so far regarding cemeteries, and a couple specifically regarding pet cemeteries.
Councillor.
Great. Thank you for that expertise, because I think it's important. And as the delegate mentioned today, we want this to be an inclusive area and a place that is well recognized across the country for its value here. So I appreciate your expertise in this, and thanks. And I look forward to the more fulsome report.
Good. Councillor Gillan.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Michelle. I appreciate the question from Councillor Weiss, because something similar. I realize you did have some comments and questions from the Heritage Committee, so I did read in that report their recommendations. And I was curious, obviously you have some more consultation to do. Do you have any intention in reaching out to the Arts and Cultural Center, the Cultural Center Board as such?
Michelle?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gilliland. Do you mean our Arts and Culture Heritage Network, a specific organization, just to clarify?
Just the organization itself. Obviously, it can be a broader spectrum within Aurora. I just thought that they would be a good resource as well, just given the fact that it is culture and art and so forth within our community, and perhaps maybe they could shed some interesting perspective as well.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gilliland, that's a great idea. So when we do go to speak to other groups, we'll certainly include them on the list.
Councillor.
Appreciate that. And also, I wasn't sure if perhaps you would be reaching out to other maybe cultural organizations within the community and just maybe asking feedback from them as well. Again, because it's hitting home, and perhaps it'll help us make a sound decision.
Michelle.
For Gilliland, we are developing the list of who we want to consult, both locally and in terms of subject matter experts and scholars. Perfect. As it relates to that type of language and acts of memorialization.
Great.
Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a long and complicated and I think thorough discussion. with all points of views represented. And at the end of the discussion, the suggestion was to retain the original form of any monument to preserve historical accuracy. And also, it's to suggest an understanding of why certain language is no longer used, be provided through QR codes, and also that we should have a disclaimer on behalf of the town of Aurora. If our intention is to enhance the report from the historical significance, specifically of the commemorative value of the monuments, gravestones, markers, then I think that the decision that the committee came to is valid, and who knows what's right or wrong, but I think would be a good one to be used by the town. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo? Want to go ahead? Oh, you didn't want it?
No, I did.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I kind of put this in a different category. At least at the beginning of the establishment of this cemetery, it was by a husband and wife that buried their pets, and then maybe others. It doesn't appear to be, a community-led effort. It's not something that, the town of Aurora at the time was engaged in, was supportive. So I don't put it in the same category as other monuments that we may want to change what's on there. If it's hateful language, it should be immediately removed. That's my perspective. There's no value to having that there. It's not changing history. Perhaps it's correcting it. If it's hateful language, it shouldn't be there. If we want to put a QR code, and for those who are interested to see what it did say, fine. I mean, I'd go as far as that, but I'm not in favor of keeping that if it's hateful language on that, especially if now we're promoting it and we're bringing people there and we're making it very, very public. That's my perspective.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that was the opinion I started with at the meeting. After hearing all of the discussion, I did vote for this, but I absolutely understand where you're coming from with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'd say I agree with Councillor Gallo. If it's hateful wording, hateful speech, it should not be tolerated, especially if the town's taking this on and promoting this to be a place for families to attend and to go and visit. If this hateful wording was on anything in the town at this moment, anywhere, we would ask staff to go out immediately and remove it right away. So I feel the same way about this. Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 14.2. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one. Would you like to move it? Seconder. Councillor Kemp, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
I think this is an informational piece for the council, but it's also for the residents. And if anybody reads the report, and if they don't, I'll just say that this is a heritage site. And as such, we are required to maintain it in a certain state of repair. With respect to the inspections and engravings on the memorials, plural, we have had a situation, I think not too long ago, where names were spelled incorrectly. So this is a good opportunity for staff to be checking thank you, the names on the gravestones to make sure that we have acknowledged and respected everybody there. Thank you.
Councillor Garland.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. I guess Ramuno's not here. I don't know who would be answering. Mr. Ramuno, sorry, I was looking for you over there. Do we have any idea of the financial implications for renaming Luxton Avenue?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, not off the top of my head, but we've changed street signs in the past. It's not a significant expense.
Councillor.
Thank you. And when would the residents be notified on the street of this change? And what kind of information will be provided to them with this change?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So staff, following council's adoption of the report, staff is prepared to move forward in sending out notice to the residents to advise them that the street sign will be changed, and that could happen in a matter of weeks.
Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Muno. Mr. Muno, when Mr. Watts brought forward the first, the correction that was required, it was a process. We were going to do public survey. We're going to go back and forth. So is it now that if something is misspelled that we just fix it?
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we will, part of replacing the sign, we will send a notice out to the residents on the street advising them of the change and the reasons for the change.
Thank you. And I think in the past, we might have asked them for their opinions on that, but we're not going to do that. We are just saying it's going to change because it's, thank you. That's all I have.
Councillor Weiss.
Thank you. And I'm glad that Councillor Gartner brought up Mr. Watts, because he's been an advocate for this and for the accuracy of this for some time. And I just didn't want it to go past us to recognize the contribution he's had in the diligence and research into this to make sure that this is corrected. So that's my only comment.
Any other comments, questions? Call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 14.3. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one. Would you like to move it?
Not at this moment.
Someone to move it? Councillor Gillen, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I may have missed this part, but through you to Mr. Mino, are the residents in the area fully aware of what's going to be happening here?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, they are. And the interested parties were advised of the report coming to council this evening.
Councillor.
So I don't know if anybody is in the chamber from that area, but were there any comments that you could provide us?
Mr. Mel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No significant comments nor objections that we've received on this application.
Councillor.
Thank you. And I couldn't tell, is the entrance from Wellington, that's an emergency entrance? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is what we call phase 2. So that entrance you see on this drawing is a emergency entrance only, because the main entrance will be through phase 1, which was approved a couple of years ago, immediately to the east. And that has a full move access onto Wellington, which is aligned to the on the south side of Wellington with the previous development of 11 lots.
Councillor.
Thank you. So that's just to ensure we have another way to get in and out of this. Thank you very much.
Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. While minor, but we always speak of EP zones and typically the reduction of EP zones. Just for clarity, I did put side to side the old one that came from the public planning and the one we had before us. And it appears that the EP zone on the south end of the property around block 8 and 9 have increased.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's correct. And the those townhouse blocks in the rear yards with 7.5 meter, 25-foot rear yards are entirely outside of the EP zone. So the recommendation is that area in green will be zoned environmental protection zone.
Councillor?
Yeah, it looks like as a result of the removal of that westerly entrance, the EP zone has moved easterly along the south property line, as well as at the southeast corner of Block 8. There's an additional corner there that's now EP zone, so it's good to see.
Shimo?
Mr. Mayor, that's correct, Councillor Gallo. It has, since the public planning meeting, it has increased lately.
Councillor? Councillor Gardner, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Mr. Muno. Mr. Muno, that southern part of that property, I don't know if it's a stream. Is it a stream that's running there? It's certainly got water in it.
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is not a street. It's a tributary of the Tannery Creek, but it is essentially a dry swale. It's a ditch. So it is within the Lake Simcoe Conservation Regulated Area. They've reviewed the application and have signed off on it. And again, as recommended, that dry swale area is being zoned EP, and there won't be any development within that area.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I wanted to know.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through to Mr. Muno. Mr. Muno, when I look back at the public planning presentation, May 14th, 2024, specifically the zoning chart that we typically provide, I noticed that for the height, it said 10 meters. It said that for 200 Wellington Street, which was the OLT approved in principle, it said the max height was 10 meters. For the proposed R8 zone, the proposed height was 10 meters. And yet when I looked at tonight's presentation and I look at that same chart, now it says that the OLT approved in principle 200 Wellington Street is 11 meters and the proposed R8 exception zone is 11 meters. So I guess my question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Muno, is how did both the OLT and this proposed one change from 10 to 11 meters?
Toronto?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, you're correct. The old R8 townhouse zone has a maximum height of 10 meters. But as part of the discussion with the applicant and through the original OLT board hearing, it was determined that these are three-story townhouses that provide that flexibility in height with the pitched roof, that 11 meters was a more appropriate height as a maximum height. That was applied to the zoning in phase 1, and we're following suit with the same zoning because it'll be the same housing product. So staff have recommended the 11-meter maximum heights for the entire project, comprised of 27 units in the first phase and the 29 units in this phase before council this evening.
Councillor?
Thank you. I guess my only comment is, and then I think that when there are changes like that from the public planning report to GC, it'd be nice to note that in the report so that we're aware of it. We don't necessarily have to go back and forth and discover it for ourselves.
Any other comments, questions? We'll vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Gallo, 15.1. Do you want to move that?
Yep.
Q seconder. Councillor Weiss, go ahead, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I'll just quickly read it, just so everyone is aware of what we're talking about. Whereas the town of Aurora is committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of all residents, especially during extreme weather events, and whereas it is a growing need to provide support for vulnerable individuals during both cold and warm weather events, including those experiencing homelessness or those who may be at risk due to health conditions. And whereas warming cooling centers have been recognized as a crucial service for those requiring shelter and protection from the dangers of extreme temperatures, and whereas the introduction of a 24-hour warming cooling center during extreme weather conditions in Aurora could serve to mitigate the risk posed by both cold and warm weather conditions to vulnerable individuals, and whereas our current warming cooling centers are only open from 7 to 11 p.m., now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that staff be directed to investigate the feasibility of establishing a warming cooling center during extreme weather conditions on a 24-hour basis And two, be it further resolved that the report back to council provide information on potential implementation of such a facility, including an assessment of costs, operational requirements, and potential locations. And I did see Mr. Cohen in the audience is actually as a result of some discussions I had with him that this has been brought forward. I did have comments and discussions with staff in terms of the appropriateness and what we currently do. Well, it's basically asking for a report back to see any potential locations and costs associated with it.
Yep. Councilor Gardner.
I would like to thank Councillor Gallo for this motion. I wasn't aware that we didn't have anything 24/7. During the ice storm, the senior center was opened up as a warming center, and there was one person there when I went to check. But they did have cots. They had cots set up in one of the rooms. So it was my impression that it was open during the night. Guess the question is through you. Anybody can take it. I'm not sure. Am I wrong on that? Do we not have a facility at the moment? Although the senior center is used for other things. And with this new facility or using the senior center, would we be having a generator to service that site?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't here during the ice storm, but in a scenario like that, the senior center is our emergency operations center. So it may have been held open or brought open for that particular purpose. This, I believe by the motion, is more when the region calls for an extreme weather event, when the high heat temperature or very low temperature. And we naturally, as a municipality, host and offer our facilities as warming centers or cooling centers to get in out of the cold or to get in out of the heat, usually as a break from the weather, but then the people leave. Like it's meant to be as a tempered break from the environment. It isn't an opportunity at the moment to offer that beyond our facility operating hours. So it is not something we service and provide within our municipality right now. This is typically a region provision, and there are regional shelters, seasonal shelters around the region that support individuals in need. And anyone in need can in fact be provided that service. In fact, speaking with the region, there are some spaces available in our existing seasonal shelters across the region that individuals, if they let it be known they'd like support, that the region can assign them to those seasonal shelters.
Councillor.
Dear Mr. Mayor, thank you for your answer. And I don't know if I can ask, but Councillor Gallo, but I can ask you, is the intention that this be in Aurora?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that is what a councillor is asking, is for consideration of what we can do here in Aurora. So from what I'm taking away from this, as staff would research what the options are, and speaking with the region about the availability of something and what that would look like. And a report back would communicate what exists currently for the provisions of service, as well as what the possibility is in answering Councillor Gallo's question, if we were to offer something here in Aurora specifically.
Councillor.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, I would like to see Aurora mentioned in the now therefore be it, if Councillor Gallo is amenable to that, as if that is the intent that it be in Aurora, I think it would be good to put it in the motion. And the other comment I have is that during the ice storm, it was interesting. I lived on the on the west side of Yonge. We didn't have any power, but the east side of Yonge did. So a generator, didn't come into question there, but I don't think we could have a warming and cooling center without an assurance of power. through Mr. Mayor, if you would, to Ms.
McDougall.
McDougall.
There we go. Through Mr. Mayor, I think to me, there's some clarity about what you're speaking of, if I may. I don't want to put words in either of your mouths, but that occurrence when there was a lack of power, power went out. We have an emergency operations center where corporately we pull together and declare an emergency and or what have you. We would open our emergency reprieve or respite center, which in our case is actually the EOC, which is where the leaders work at trying to handle the emergency. The AFLC is currently our off-site for the public to go to, and it has a generator. It has the ability to manage power if there were such a failure, like the ice storm scenario. In this particular motion, I don't believe that is what we're speaking of. It is when it is minus 30 arbitrarily outside, and the request is to try to support families or individuals that are stuck in the cold during those occasions. Not that we've lost power, not that our facilities are out. It's how do we accommodate individuals during those extreme weather events, not during a power failure or a tornado or on any other declared emergency. This is just, if I'm understanding what's on the table, it is just those occasions when the region has declared an extreme weather event.
Council. I'll come back to you, Councillor.
Thank you. I think I'm through Mr. Mayor, I think I'm understanding what you're saying, but we have had one very large failure of the power grid. I don't know how many years ago it is now. So again, we just need to ensure that it has, wherever it is, emergency power. Thank you.
You, Councillor.
Thank you. I think Councillor Gardner asked a lot of my questions. I think primarily was, is the intent to speak and collaborate with the region, because I didn't see that mentioned in the resolution. So through you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall, does the region currently offer 24-hour warming cooling center in the region now? Is that what I understand?
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, they do offer seasonal shelter, and especially during the extreme weather, winter events. Summer is not necessarily a necessity. It actually gets cooler at night. So the overnight part isn't as much of an extreme concern in the summertime. In the winter, though, is definitely, and that's where the seasonal shelters come into play. And they have them throughout the region, not in every municipality.
Council.
Thank you. So I'm assuming just by the nature of this motion that Aurora doesn't have a designated warming / cooling center to serve the residents here from subsidized by the region. Is that a fair assertion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an offer while we are open. Our recreation centers are cooling and warming centers. We support that structure. It's these after hours that we do not have the provision within Aurora.
Councillor.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't clear. That's what I meant. The overnight hours. I certainly welcome it. I would hope that within this motion, we'll get some numbers back as far as a collaboration with the region. I don't know if the province has any kind of helping hand in this. Through Mr. Mayor, Ms. McDougall, does the province typically also help in some of the funding for this as well?
Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as this is typically a service provided by the region with an upper tier responsibility, not typically the municipality. I'm not clear on exactly who provides funding for this service. We don't have the provisions typically within our structure of social work provisions or public health scenario. So I will definitely be consulting with the region and finding out what the structure could look like if we were to have one.
Councillor.
Perfect. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to see that Aurora is going to hopefully continue to do their part. And thanks, Councillor Gallo, for bringing this motion forward so we can look at those after hours, because that's really the critical key piece, especially during extreme heat and cold. Thanks.
You, any other comments, questions? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. We've heard it a few times, both from Ms. McDougall as well as Councillor Gillen. That I think that the region has to be involved in the development of this report, at least in consultation. I think it's fair to say that they're the subject matter experts, that they have certainly more experience in dealing with this issue. And so while it's implied, I'd like to see the resolution altered slightly so that it actually includes a reference to in consultation with the region. And so unless the mover, Councillor Gallo, wants to make it a friendly motion, I'm happy to put forward an amendment that say that now therefore be it hereby resolved that staff, in consultation with the region and be directed to investigate the feasibility. I'll move that unless Councillor Gallo wants it as a friendly motion. Now therefore be it hereby resolved that staff, in consultation with the region and be directed to investigate the feasibility of establishing, and everything else is the same.
It's fine. Who's the seconder? Councillor Reese, you fine with that? Okay.
Because I would like to get that information back. I support the idea of the report coming. I just feel that we need to have the region's expertise in there. It's already been referenced a few times, but just to formalize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gallo, second time.
Thank you. I have no issues with that. We can collaborate with whomever we want and everybody if we have to make it happen. And perhaps I read it really quickly, but the title does say warming and cooling emergency centers. Not necessarily if there's a power outage, although I think we have protocols regarding that. The whereas, I know I read it quickly, also says, whereas the introduction of a 24-hour warming cooling center during extreme weather conditions in Aurora. So yes, the intent is for this to be in Aurora. That's the intent, because we don't have it right now, as was also referenced in my whereas.
Councillor Kim.
Just want to thank Councillor Gallo for tabling this motion. I completely understand the urgency and importance of addressing the need for emergency warming and cooling shelters, especially during the recent harsh weather. But I'm also in alignment with what staff have said in terms of partnering with the region, given we have a $130 million operating budget, 44% of which goes to the region for services such as social services. So partnering with them and having them being involved with this financially and otherwise I think is important. So thank you, Councillor Gallo, and I'd be in support.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Regional report. Someone want to move that? Receive for information. Councillor Gilliland, second, or Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on that? Call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, did you want or don't? I already called it. No, I'm going to hold you to what I hold everyone else. Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. New business, Councillor Reese.
New business I know we're underway with the expression of interest, but I just wonder if there's any update, because residents have asked me about what's happening, particularly with the armory. So I wonder if there's anything that can be done with the expression of interest in terms of an update so the public is aware of it through you to Ms. McDougall likely.
Well, I think at this time out, Ms. McDougall can expand, but I think it's gone out. It closes March 14th. And at that point, we'll, I guess, have an update to council. And then from there, we'll figure out how do we move forward. And, obviously, lease agreements and things like that we would be discussing. And once we decide on something, it'll come up.
Yeah, just wanted to bring it forward for that date so people are aware of the deadline. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gillen, new business? Councillor Gardner, new business?
A question. When we raise something under new business, for example, I raised the possible plowing of the trail between the senior center and the leisure complex. Does that go into thin air or does it go to staff?
Did you follow up with that?
Well, it doesn't seem to have gone to staff, but it was a request from a committee. So I would have to actually
asking.
ask for a staff follow-up.
Well, you can always just pick up the phone and call them, Councillor.
Well, what is the point of saying something under new business if it just goes into thin air, if it is something that needs
I
to
don't
be
think
actioned by staff?
Was it a motion? It wasn't a motion, it's not actionable. You need to follow up with staff, Councillor. You've been doing this for how long?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, that's really insulting. I'm just asking because it didn't go to staff as I had thought it would, as I believe it has done in the past. But if I have to bring forward a motion, I will. Thanks.
Okay, I look forward to the motion. Councillor Thompson, new business? Councillor Gallo, new business?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Ramuno. I know I've brought this up before, the intersection of Industrial Parkway South and Yonge Street. I use it often, and I know we've explored the dimensions of that intersection in terms of transport trucks going northbound and turning right eastbound onto Industrial Parkway South. But every single time that I'm there, I see transport trucks that have to do a very wide turn. So take the left lane on Yonge Street, have to make a turn, take the left lane going westbound on Industrial Parkway, take up that whole lane to make that turn. While I think that, and I'm sure that the dimensions are proper, we are highly promoting that as a thoroughfare for big trucks to avoid Yonge Street. And if those big trucks are constantly not being able to fit on that intersection, there's something wrong. It may be dimensionally correct, but practically on a daily basis, it doesn't function properly. So if you want me to sit there for 6 hours and take pictures, I'm happy to do that. But it's a problem that I think needs to be addressed.
Mr. Rona?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly follow up with staff and report back to council.
Councillor Thompson, did you have something to add?
Through you to Ms. McDougall. Ms. McDougall, we had a young delegate earlier this evening to talk with regards to incorporating Ramadan into town's events. Is this something we're currently looking into or something that you can take back and have discussions with your team about?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, I know actually the young lady has met with our staff as well to have a quick discussion about what is offered. There clearly is not an event yet offered for that particular subject, but certainly our staff can review opportunities. We have a very multicultural community. We have a lot, could be a very large event to celebrate all of them, but certainly the staff will share and consider what our options are and can bring back a communication to council as to what that would look like. I know right now we do acknowledge social media wise, but there may be other opportunities we can consider.
And Councillor, and we recognize through the office of the mayor as well.
Well, I just know that yourself, your team, Shelley Ware, they've done a great job over the years on a variety of multicultural events. And so look forward to what you can come back to us with.
Good. Councillor Kim? New business? No? Councillor Gardner, did you still have new business or just?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I would like to thank Shaheen for coming forward tonight. The month of March marks the holiday of Ramadan. I'm not sure if we actually call it a holiday because it is really a holy day. This information that we got, Eid al-Fitr, is celebrated at the end of Ramadan. So I'm sure we have many Muslim members in our community, and I wish them a wonderful Ramadan. I do believe there's fasting involved, so I wish them strength for their fasting and peace and light. Thank you.
Thank you. PSAs, Councillor Kim? Councillor Gallo? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Gardner, PSAs? Councillor Gallo? Councillor Weiss? PSA?
And everybody, that March 23rd is National Puppy Day. And simply because we had the Pet Cemetery. The ACC is doing the filming on that day to mark the puppy day. So I just wanted to make sure, because the Pet Cemetery came up, that it was recognized. Thank you.
Wristbands are on sale for our annual Easter Palooza event, formerly Hello Spring. There's no interruption, sir. Sorry. No, you don't. Kids can explore spring-themed interactive activities indoors and outdoors, and even have a photo taken with the Easter Bunny. Wristbands are $5 per person and are available for purchase at select town facilities. More details are available at aurora.ca/Easter. Nominations are open for our annual Community Recognition Awards, an event that celebrates the incredible contribution residents and businesses make to our community. So if you know an individual, group, or business in town who is going above and beyond to help strengthen Aurora, please nominate them today at aurora.ca/CRA. And March break is almost here, and we want to wish all our students and many parents an awesome week off next week. If you're planning a staycation, you'll want to check out our great day camps, drop-in programs, and other activities that the town has going on. You can visit aurora.ca for all the details. And there are also only a few more days to apply for a plot at the new community garden program at John Abel Park. So whether you're a gardening pro or a newbie with big dreams, this is your chance to grow your own fresh food, and you can apply by Friday, March 7th. There are limited plots available, and they will be assigned through random lottery system, and details are available at aurora.ca/John Abel Park. And a friendly reminder that the AFLC pool will be closed from March 10th to 23 for annual maintenance, but don't have to worry. The Sark pool will still be open and ready for you to enjoy. For the Sark swim schedule, please visit aurora.ca/aquatics. And motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Weiss, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.